Students Incorporated, a podcast where we dive into relevant topics and issues related to the world of business, technology, education, and design. I'm your host, Mr. Jason. Episodes include student conversations, interviews with thought leaders, and inspirational stories with an international flavor. This podcast is created and produced with the help of students from the International Community School of Bangkok. In today's episode, we explore the beloved topic of coffee. I'm joined by our co-host, Lion and Tazia. We also welcome our special guest, Mr. Gary Ford II. Thank you for joining us. But first, let's hear the quote of the day and get some headline news.
Thank you, Mr. Jason. The quote of the day is by the famous Burt Lancaster, an American actor who played tough guys of tender hearts, kind of like me. He is quoted as saying, "I judge a restaurant by the bread and by the coffee." And I know that Mr. Jason judges a coffee shop by its espresso and pour over. Another fun fact for y'all, Burt Lancaster's final appearance in a movie was in the film Field of Dreams, which is filmed in Iowa, Mr. Jason's home state in the US of A.
Recently, residents of a town in Rayong noticed that the beach water had a strange color and smell. Researchers think that it could be a plankton normally found at this time of the year. It's harmless and won't hurt the water. In regional news, with the recent tragedy in Indonesia at a large soccer game, officials are seeking answers as to why the stadium was so full and why fans got out of hand towards the end of the game. Sports have a way of bringing out sharp emotions and reactions. In international news, Germany and Denmark are currently building the longest immersed tunnel between the two countries. The tunnel will be up to 40 meters under the Baltic Sea and will be 18 kilometers long.
Thank you for that quote of the day and the news headlines. I'm really excited about this episode's topic for obvious reasons. It's all about coffee. So let's dive in. Pun intended.
Wait, how is it a pun intended though? Like, what's the pun there?
Let's dive in. Dive into coffee.
Dive into coffee, but diving.
Don't dive into the coffee.
I'm diving into my coffee.
Okay.
Pun
Anyway.
intended.
Okay, Mr. Gary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Our topic and focus for this episode is coffee, as you could tell, right? But let's start by hearing a little bit about your cafe and the delicious menu, which I personally know the nachos are amazing. You guys have to check it out. What inspired it, and what are some of your customers' favorite dishes?
Yeah. So thanks for having me. It's really good to be here with you guys at ICS. And yeah, my name is Gary. I own and run La Mesa Coffee alongside my wife. And La Mesa, as a coffee shop, we do kind of American-focused fusion Mexican food. So in the U.S., I'm from New Mexico, if you guys know of the great state of New Mexico. Cool. What part?
Albuquerque.
Yes. 5,000 gold stars for you. So so I too am from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So we do American style fusion Mexican food, a little bit, but we're primarily a specialty coffee shop. So full espresso bar and like a drip bar. We do really fun coffee alternatives for those that don't drink coffee at all. And then we do American style pastries. My wife's the head baker, so yeah, really great things like our American style, like New York cheesecake, flowers chocolate cake. We have like really great cookies. Oh man, it's getting me hungry just thinking about that. And then we do like all day brunch. A lot of things like our burritos and stuff. So we have a good profile, kind of something for everyone. But I think especially our Americans and kind of local ties, they really just like that, the like Mexican kind of flavors, because kind of unique to find that here. And then we do a unique take on it since it's New Mexican style Mexican food.
So shifting to more of a business and marketing type question, how have you been able to maintain individuality with your cafe in a very saturated sort of coffee industry and market, especially in Bangkok?
It's very heavily saturated. There's not a lack of cafes, that's for sure, I guess. But for us, as we kind of open our business, good business always fulfills a need. And I believe that good products sell themselves. So for us at La Mesa, we really strive to just be unique. We really try to just do excellence in all of our products. So we kind of have a saying, if it's okay, we don't want it. Like, we don't believe in like things that just taste okay or that look okay. We only want awesome. If it doesn't like make us go like, wow, oh, that's really great, then just like we throw it out. We don't want to be a part of it. So we do have like traditional kind of items, but we really want them at a high standard. So to an extent, the products, I believe, when done well, they'll sell themselves to an extent. And there's that organic word of mouth from that. But for La Mesa, we also really wanted to create just like a sense of community, a sense of fun, a cafe. One of the purposes that it fulfills is just like a place to be, a place to connect with others, a place to work, a place to escape. So our cafe is kind of like interior is really bright. It's really inviting. It's a place that you feel like you want to hang out in for like quite a while. We have like a unique design intake. So it's inspired by my home state of New Mexico. So it's really like photogenic, it's really Instagrammable is what people might say. So that attracts people on its own. Like people want to come initially, some people want to come initially for that. But creating a positive experience is going to get those returning customers. And I think that that's been just a key to its growth and its success.
What advice would you give other food and beverage type businesses if the market seems sort of like saturated? Sometimes, just asking yourself, is your business, is your product needed? If it is oversaturated, if there's not a need, then that's definitely a problem. Looking for the area of service. So Bangkok as a whole has a lot of cafes. We're kind of in a unique area in Bang Na. Definitely opened 4 years ago. We were quite rare, especially the size of our cafe. There weren't really things in our end of Sukhumvit and in lower Bang Na. So I think that if you see something, you feel like it's a little oversaturated, you might look for an area that isn't offering these services yet.
Now, Mr. Gary, we understand you were just in a local coffee making competition. Is that correct? Can you describe what type of competition it was and what it was like competing in this type of environment?
Yeah. So in the world, we do what we call like specialty coffee. So for those of you in like Thailand, you think of like, like the Nescafe packets, or like for me, I'm a little old. But like in America, we have Folgers coffee. This is what we call like first wave coffee, or like coffee was mainly seen as a drug, it wasn't to taste good. And then there was like a second wave of coffee where people started to taste a little more. Starbucks is kind of like the big go ahead from this, but a lot of flavored things are artificial and not a lot of repeatable approaches to the coffee. But now, in specialty coffee, we call this like the third wave of coffee, where every aspect from the seed all the way to the customer's cup, we approach it as a fine art and science. So we can use repeatable, measurable results so that like we know we're getting what we want. So like now, like the day and age, like if you know someone that's like, I'm really into specialty coffee, they're a nerd, just so you know. This is like, they're a nerd. They love like science, chemistry, numbers. They're like geeking out. So all that to say this, that like in the specialty coffee realm, there's basically like coffee Olympics is like an easy way to explain it, where there's all these categories that you can compete in locally in your country to go on to worlds. So I recently competed in the AeroPress competition, and it's this specific brewing device where people from all over the world will compete locally to use this one device and are given like a secret coffee they have to create a recipe for and then go to compete with others. So here in Thailand, I was one of 99 contestants, and I had to come up with like a special brew recipe. You also work a bit with like the chemical makeup of your water for that. Like the temperature, all these little variables to make your cup unique and special. So the day of the competition, I made it pretty far. I went to like the semifinals, and the AeroPress is really cool because it blends several kind of coffee brewing techniques together into one. So it's by nature really fun and creative. It's an American invention. The guy that created the like Whammo Frisbee invented this. So it's like a fun invention. So for my competition, I had like a bit of performance. It's common for people to like dress up in a costume. In the past, like people have gone as like Pokemon or unicorns or something. So my team, we kind of like, we went kind of like balled out a little bit all together. And then in my recipe, I have like a routine about coffee meditation and true flavor aroma beginning with us. So you need like a meditative time to prepare for a coffee. And then, I did like a one-handed push-up press in it. So maybe I can show you guys a little later what we did there. But it was a lot of fun and different things. But the taste in the cup was what matters the most, and having fun. So I did really well. I didn't win. but it was a really great experience.
Well, okay, Mr. Gary, while you were at this coffee Olympics, were you nervous, like at all?
It's just the first experience for me. So later on, I'd love to see just more of my team kind of compete in similar environments. So for me, as I'm American, Thai is not my first language, so I was a little nervous a bit just about like, oh yeah, am I going to not hear something that was said? This kind of things is a big environment, but overall not that nervous. I guess, I was practiced, I was prepared. It was overall just like really fun, a little bit of anxiety just that it all is in my second language, but I felt comfortable with that, and I hope to do something like it again.
You said you went all the way to the semifinals, right?
Yeah.
Were you happy with the outcome?
Yeah, it was really, really great experience. The recipe that I came up with for the competition, just kind of like I said with my cafe, I went to do something that most people didn't do. So there's past world championships, you're able to, I did a lot of, like I said, basically I'm a geek, I'm a nerd. I really nerded out on my training for it and kind of prep. But I wanted to create something that was a different recipe than what's won worlds in the past. So in this case, that didn't work out for me, apparently. The guy that won the Thailand competition, his recipe was more kind of what you've seen in the past. It's like a champion winning cup. Maybe I can show you guys some of that later on. Different variables of like, how many filters are you using, the grind size, the brew time. There's like how much agitation, how much pressure, stress are you putting the coffee through. So my brew method, it looked very intense. Like I said, I do a one-handed push-up, but it's actually very gentle. So my process, I did as little agitation to the brewing process as possible. And I really was striving to bring out kind of like light notes from the coffee. It had like really natural lynchy and like light grape notes. And I want to bring those out in like a soft, smooth, but yet like bold way. And that's a little different than what like people probably also did. So it did well in like early rounds, maybe because it was different. That was kind of my hope, was that the judges are kind of subjective in this competition. You're not given points. They just kind of like point. They're like, we like this one. So early on, it just has to kind of stand out a bit. And I think that it did that. But then, maybe later on, the best cup wins. So I'll have to just try again next time.
Were they judging on the flavor, or were they judging on how you made it?
Yeah, they're judging on the flavor. So, and it's the judges are like, they're certified judges. So these are people that are like certified coffee judges. And they do a blind tasting. So my routine was quite intense, and really like people went crazy. Like when I did it, no one knew that I basically like stood up on the table. It's like we were kind of here right now, and I'm going to make coffee. Then I just like hop on the table and do a one-handed push-up using a chair. So like, what is happening? The first time they had no idea what was going on. So the crowd kind of like went wild in a way that I wasn't expecting. I just like didn't think about the reaction, what I was about to do. But so for the judges, they couldn't look though. They were blind. They're kind of like facing the other direction, but they could hear all this happening behind them. They're like, what is Gary up to? What's going on there?
Building the excitement.
But you don't get any like bonus points. In other barista competitions, you're given points off of your presentation, right, different things. But like, and this doesn't matter at all.
Wait, out of curiosity, you said there was a team that dressed up like Pokemon, right?
In the past, I think, people have gone as like Pokemon.
Do you remember what coffee they made?
Well, it's the competition coffee. Yeah, everyone has to use the same one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you interested in doing that?
Perhaps.
Yeah. Be really cool. Yeah, if everyone is like a different Pokemon, that'd be really cool.
So moving on from that, we've seen you have connected with some coffee farmers and producers here in Thailand. What kind of projects or connections have you been able to make with the growers?
One of the things that I just love about especially coffee in Thailand is that it's a really close-knit community. So Thailand's really unique since it has a consumer culture. Like, we drink a lot of coffee in Thailand, but then also we're a country that produces coffee. And to be honest, this is rare in the world, especially to our scale. So my wife and I, we got into coffee because of connections with rural villages up north, originally doing like medical missions and medical projects and hill tribes is how we first learned about coffee on the ag side. So it's been a big kind of passion of ours for a long time. And as a specialty coffee shop, you always have a very close relationship to the farm and to the producer. Since COVID is kind of ending now, we're looking at re-engaging into just like some farming communities again, and directly working alongside of them to help them be able to improve the quality of their coffee and really bring out some like unique flavors and profiles. I brought some coffees from the same region today that use two different what we call like processes. One's just like a wash process, which is like the typical way that you would process coffee. But we did a project to help them build some drying beds where you like dry out the coffee so that they can hopefully be able to produce more unique processes. And from that, they can sell them at like a higher price. So it's really exciting to just see these things happening. In Thailand, it happens in just like a really close-knit way because we're only about 2 hours in theory from a farm. It takes maybe an hour to fly up north, right? And then some cases an hour drive up a mountain, boom, we could be at a coffee farm, right?
Yeah.
So there's a sort of green coffee bean harvest. How could people like improve their quality of that harvest?
Yeah. So there's so many, coffee is a fruit and it is a grown product. So there's just a lot of unseen factors and what can happen to coffee. So what we did in our project was the coffee as fruit has like an outer pulp, and then the inside that we eat as coffee we call it like the cherry, or it's the pit. If you think of it compared to like another fruit, it would be like the pit, like a mangosteen or a lychee, something like this. And then that's set out to dry, and after that's dried, it's roasted. So during that time, there's just a lot of things that can go wrong. There's a lot of things you can control to get kind of unique flavors. There's to control fermentation, and all of that. If you're keeping it free from pests, outside forces, there's a lot of ways to bring out really unique flavors and tastes. The approaches that we use in the coffee industry, they're very similar to what will be used in like the wine industry, right? Because grapes are also like it's an organic product that you're using, and you're finding factors to manipulate it to control, to get the results that you want. So really cool time, and you can check out on our page. We're sharing a bit this week. Coming up is International Coffee Day, actually October 1st, International Coffee Day. And a lot of it is focused on the like circular economy of coffee, of how we're all connected from that. Even as a customer, supporting local coffee shops, you're always going to be giving back more to the local economy, and that increases exponentially for the village as well.
Wait, you said coffee was a fruit? I thought it was a bean.
Well, it's a fruit. Yeah. So looking at coffee kind of raw. On a tree, it'll look like a cranberry maybe to you. So it's a fruit. And once they're ripe, they turn kind of bright red. It looks like very kind of Christmassy. So it'll be like bright red on like really dark green leaves. And then once the coffee's dried out completely, we call those, like you said, the green coffee. And the green coffee is what's then sent to roasters to roast. And it's only after coffee is roasted that it turns brown.
Mr. Gary, we all know that every industry will face some changes sooner or later, right?
Right.
Now, so if you're looking into the near future, what changes or challenges would you envision in the coffee industry will have? Like, okay, let's break it down into 3 areas, right? The producer level, the roaster level, and the retail level. Like, what kind of changes or challenges do you expect?
Oh, man. Well, that's a very big question. So one thing that is just like a big challenge in the world, is climate change. Climate change has a major effect on the coffee industry. So one reason why we have such a strong emphasis on helping villages is because there's estimated like a global coffee shortage. I don't remember the number in my head, but there's like a coffee crisis at hand technically. Do you know the time frame by any chance?
No, I don't. But maybe 12 years?
Yeah, something like in, I forget what, 15 years there's no more coffee, something like this. So,
really?
Yeah.
There's a lot of crisis.
There's the alarmist out there.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and this is based off of major producing countries. So a lot of countries that
Brazil.
Like Brazil, these places where they're producing coffee at a really high scale. The villages that we work with, we call them micro coffee producers, micro coffee farmers. But from pesticides, different things, climate change. Last year, the coffee crop in Thailand was really affected from all this rain that we're having. So all of this, is just makes things very challenging. I think across the board, one thing that we're going to see is just what we've talked about is the coffee community coming together to help one another all the more. So I think that for the producer, that's really going to be key for them, is having that relationship where people are already investing, they're getting money up front to be able to help their community, to be able to help their crop for the future. And then same for us, where we know kind of come up ahead that we have good quality coffee coming our way because we've directly been a part of its production.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We've got some good news for the ICS community. Our first semester break is just over a week ahead. It'd be a great time to relax and have fun. Make sure you clear out any leftover homework you may have. And stay safe, everybody.
We are back with part 2 of our coffee talk with Mr. Gary from La Mesa Coffee. For part 2, we will be breaking from our normal format. We want to provide you with something just a little bit different. We have a lot of coffee experience sitting in our studio today, so we will be making coffee for you, our listeners. Now, unfortunately, we cannot push the aroma or the cup of coffee through your speakers. However, we will be bringing you the next best thing. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the sounds of coffee. Please stay tuned for more episodes about exciting and engaging topics. As always, this podcast would not be possible without the hard work and support of our international student production team.
All music and sound effects are courtesy of Pixabay.com, a vibrant community of creatives sharing copyright-free images, videos, and music.
And we're signing off until next time. We're Students Incorporated because your voice matters.